NewGenGamers.com.
This
from
is
FASA.
yes, licensed by FASA, developed and published by Activision. This is during Activision's rebirth after a period of really almost disappearing from the video game scene, and they went into a lot of different things. There was buyouts, and they ended up almost becoming an edutainment company. And finally, they spun things around and said, "Let's focus on games again." And so this was getting back on that pace.
And once they restructured, they really started getting some real good stuff going. I mean, they got a few licenses. So they did the MechWarrior stuff. And then they slipped into like a Marvel license. They got a Spider-Man game out of it. They also got, they started the Tony Hawk franchise.
Tony Hawk did it. Tony Hawk put them back
on the map,
and it got them to where they are right now. Another thing here is FASA, who was a pen and paper RPG company that had these licenses such as MechWarrior. Shadowrun was made into a series on Genesis and Super Nintendo, and
they were really good with keeping with the story of the actual pen and paper RPGs.
During this period they were, and that was really cool that they converted those and were involved in the development, but it ended up biting them in the ass, I think, because Microsoft kind of signed them on as a second party, and they released Shadowrun for the Xbox 360, which was not
anything like the game.
Yeah, it did not do justice to the series, and they ended up losing a lot of money on that, and FASA was basically absorbed and destroyed by Microsoft, as the corporation likes to do.
Now, what about, was Mech Assault that way?
Mech Assault?
Yeah, wasn't that a MechWarrior tie-in, I think? I think
it's
that
very
was
possible.
FASA.
I'm not sure if it was involved with MechWarrior, then yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft did that one.
Microsoft, yeah, well, that's Microsoft tied in with FASA, and Shadowrun basically was the last thing. Yeah, you're right. After a while, Microsoft did have the MechWarrior license, and that's why they began the second-party relationship with FASA, and that was before they actually got into the home console market. That was when they were just doing the Microsoft Game Studios PC games. So there was really an early partnership for them, and now FASA's completely done. So that's kind of too bad, because it was interesting that they were taking the pen and paper RPG licenses and making good games out of them.
Now, unfortunately, I am not the hottest at Mech Assault.
MechWarrior.
MechWarrior.
But it's a cool game.
Look at the
again,
3D on this.
This is MechWarrior 2. Yeah, this is 3D. And, oh, take that.
Got him.
And who does not like mechs?
I'm still trying to master the moving. There we go. There you have a little power bar down in the lower right that garners your movement. Now, as you can hear, really good CD quality audio on this.
Yeah, you got some bumping metal.
Looking around for some enemies here.
This is what they play in all mechs to get you pumped.
Well, see, while you're piloting the mech, you're listening to metal.
Yeah.
That's how MechWarrior pilots do. That looks like a power-up.
Now, as you can see, they're kind of bland landscapes and things kind of pop in, but for the time, it's not bad.
Well, for an early 3D game, yeah. And you can kind of get stuck on the landscape a little bit. But as you can see, when I picked up that power-up, I can walk a little faster now. I need to find me a target. And there's one. Let me just get turned around here. I feel like I'm driving a mech. I am driving a mech.
They are big.
Kind of like walking tanks.
So,
But Activision's rebirth was kind of nice. I mean, it brought them back. It's kind of nice to see an old developer return, unlike Atari, who's just kind of not the same as they were.
yeah, Activision was really close to being out of the video game industry completely, and it was MechWarrior was one of the first titles that really put them back on track as a game developer and as a strong force in the industry.
I'm going to try and shoot that plane down. Just have to lead him a little bit.
And there's just not a whole lot to say about the Saturn because it did die a horrible death. I mean,
yeah, it was way too early.
This is a cool 3D game, but what we see later on from the N64 and PlayStation blows this thing away. It couldn't compete.
Yeah, it was kind of too rough, you know?
It was nobody took advantage of the hardware was a major killer. You know, if all the games had taken advantage of the two processors and used them the way the guys at Sega did, it might have done better.
Well, that was the main thing, was that one of the biggest complaints that early Saturn people had was that, I believe Yu Suzuki said this, that no one really took advantage of it. They only used one processor instead of using both.
Yeah, and besides the guys at Sega, that's pretty much the story, and there wasn't much third-party support for Sega. Everyone went to Sony. Everyone ditched Nintendo and Sega, who were during the late 80s and early 90s the video game companies, and Sony came in out of nowhere and got everyone to make games for the PlayStation. It was the system at the time that everyone was looking for, as far as video game players were looking for, as far as developers were looking for, and of course, you know, we get into that in the PlayStation 1 video, and so the Saturn was really left with no one behind it.
Yeah, and that was really unfortunate. We're going to take a look at something different here now. So we'll move on to an early RPG for the Sega Saturn. Yeah, I like how Activision really brought themselves back during this gen.
Well, after they got rid of Jack Tretton.
Yeah, funny. Mention that.
Him being in sales didn't help, but they also released a lot of crap like Super Pitfall and Ghostbusters, the movie, the game.
Ugh.
Yeah, that like
crap.
Yeah, around like 84, basically after the video game industry crashed, their shit sucked ass too.
Welcome to the theater of the eye. 500,000 polygons a second.
Let me see.
16 million colors.
Me.
Wreak some havoc in your head.
Oh! Sega Saturn.
UJGamers.com.